Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our truly international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world, not just about their books, but about their process, how they got from start to finish. And so many of our viewers, most of our viewers are aspiring authors who love to read books. And we'd like to bring people on the show that did it, who actually wrote the book, got it published, and it's out there for the world to see. Our next guest is Dr. Carl O. Duddersoon. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, where are you located right now?
In Baltimore.
Oh, in Baltimore. Nice, nice. Now, I'm going to pop the cover of the book up. I was reading little bits about the book, and it's fascinating. America in Black and White. Tell us a little. Now, by the way, you wrote it with your son?
Correct.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the book.
It was categorized as a political science book, but it really is a mix of political science, economics, and I think the social issues that I think many of us are facing today. But it's a critique of the current state of the U.S. economy, the way we feel it's being managed and mismanaged in many ways, and how we can help to repoint that in the right direction.
Right. Now, by the way, who is this book for? I mean, who should be reading this? I'm going to read it for one, but
anyone who intends to vote in the November 24 elections should read this book prior to voting, because some of the facts that the book kind of turns up are very disconcerting about the way we're managing ourselves, and I think it's critical that anyone that's going to vote in the 2024 election.
So it's not just before we vote for president, but before we vote for congressman and all the other offices too, I would imagine.
Yes, sir. All of those voting situations should be drawn in.
Yeah. Now, I know your son's an MD, you're a PhD. Is this your area of study?
No, not particularly. I mean, I'm essentially a data scientist, mathematician, ops research, industrial engineering, and so on. My son is a board-certified MD, so this is very far from the space we normally reside in. But because of the exposure that we've had to some of the intricacies that we've sort of leveled up in the book, it's made it necessary for us to respond in the manner that we have. And it's born out of discussions we've had many times with ourselves, with others. And that's where it originated from.
Yeah. And now, will it shape our opinions or just give us a better understanding about how this mess works?
I think it will do both. It will shape opinions because I think that a lot of things that are in the book have not been revealed. For some reason, we had to dig for them. Right. In other instances, they're blaringly obvious. And then you ask yourself the question, why aren't these topical issues? Mm-hmm. Or better yet, why are there not issues on the ballot? Yeah. The real issues that affect how we live, how we are expected to live, and primarily how we might survive against the opposition we face on a global basis.
Right. Can you give us a couple examples?
So if we look at the U.S. dollar, I like to use it as a great example of something that I think has gone terribly wrong. Since around about 1970, the U.S. dollar has lost about 40, maybe 50% of its value. Prior to that, if we go back maybe 10, 20 years, it's lost a lot more. But intrinsically, about 80% of the U.S. dollar's value has been lost. But it's been lost for reasons that are pretty obvious, right? We've invested overseas at a phenomenal rate, but we've not invested in ourselves. We've invested in other countries. We've invested in other industries, but not in the American industry, not in our own industry. As a consequence, our dollar has weakened. I'm not sure why people don't understand that relationship, that, it's old economics. If you go back to the Keynesian times and the Adam Smith times, when it was clear that without a manufacturing economy, you can't sustain your currency. America is now, for the most part, a service economy. So it's no wonder that the dollar's losing value because we've got no means by which to sustain it. On top of that, and I'm going to make this very short, on top of that, we've given away our industry. We no longer invest in our own industry. Everyone else has an industry except us. They've built it off investments we've made in them, But here we are, unable to build our own infrastructure, and that infrastructure is important for not just domestic consumption, but it's also important for global consumption and also for defense consumption as well.
It almost sounds like you're saying we invested in the money of other countries. We built them up. Now they have our manufacturing, and they did some of that with our own dollar.
A vast majority of the countries that we do business with. Simple examples like the fact that the penetration rate for Japanese cars into the U.S. economy is 70, 80%. But the penetration of American cars in their markets is 2 and 3 and 5%. Why? Why are they so deep in our markets and we can't get into theirs? We've done ourselves an enormous amount of harm. And then we ask ourselves, why is our currency so weak? Why is no one using it? Why is it now a secondary a reserve currency for over 50 countries and getting worse as more people withdraw from the currency? There are real questions here that the book raises that we need to address if we're going to survive as a country.
It sounds like this would be a good primer for someone like me, for example. I get to talk to a lot of people running for office. I could use your book.
I think it's a great manual. It's a starting point for some of the discussions. Yes.
Yeah, it'll give me a lot more questions to ask. The news these days just kind of covers the surface of what's going on out there.
Correct.
But you don't get a deep analysis as you have done here over the news. So your average Joe Sixpack guy just won't know this stuff, won't even notice.
Correct.
Wouldn't even know what to ask or where to look.
Correct.
I got to say, I say this a lot about certain books, but if you go to Amazon or wherever you go to order this book, I think they could get it right on your website. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Don't go there and order one. Press that button 5 times, order 5 of them, and hand these things out. It sounds like very important. Everybody should be reading this.
But prior to the 2024 election, yes.
Before the election. We need it now. You need to read this now. Tell us about your website. Is it mostly about the book and where to order it?
It's mostly about the website. We've identified a number of key issues that we think are relevant to just getting people's interest going. The fact that we live in a democracy, but it's not a real democracy. People say it's a republic, but if it's a true democracy and you win, the popular vote, why don't you win the election, right? The fact that Caucasians in this country by maybe 2035 will be a minority in this country and therefore won't have self-determination anymore. Black and Latino voters are the largest swing voters in America, and so whoever wins that block vote or those block votes win the election. The political gridlock between the GOP and the Democrats has created leadership voids across the entire nation. One Republican made a statement. He said, America is great at creating leadership voids, but terrorists love leadership voids. And so when we are unable to demonstrate the leadership that we once were known for, the whole world begins to fall apart. Black political leaders are, like Obama, Westmore, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, they've sold out. These people don't stand for what we should be looking to stand for today. Racism against blacks and Latinos across America, it costs this country trillions of dollars each year. No one's counting the cost. No other country in the world sets aside almost 35% of its population and doesn't use them to the point that it affects their economics. There's a lot of stuff on the website that I think people will find very interesting, very factual, because they're driven by research done by others that we've pulled on, in many instances, research we've done ourselves. But I think fundamentally there are real issues here that need to be resolved. And they need to be looked at, and voters need to be aware of them. Because if they were, the people that are in office today wouldn't be in office after November 2024. I can guarantee that much.
Yeah. I just, seems like America's pretty evenly divided right now. Half the people are for Trump and half are for Biden. It's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. But also Congress is almost perfectly evenly divided too. So maybe reading this book, we could ask the right questions, have a little more knowledge, a lot more knowledge before we go to the polls. So it's so important to read this before November.
Yes, yes, I would recommend it, highly recommend it that that people invest the time and the energy because their entire futures rest upon it. In the book, we make a statement that is that America is without the infrastructure that it needs, and not many people are talking about it, and it's critical for our defense.
Yeah.
Absolutely critical for our defense. And the Boeing issue, we identified the Boeing issue years ago. We identified the fact that there were counterfeits in the U.S. supply chain. We identified the fact that they literally weren't aware of it. We identified mechanisms for identifying counterfeits in the supply chain, and nothing was done about it. We heard nothing back from them. It's scary to watch the disintegration and do nothing about it. This book has been written to get a better understanding. One, are we really defining the problem? That was our starting point. But now at this point, we're saying we not only understand the problem, we now understand how serious the problem is. And the book identifies just how serious the problem is. It's critical that we take another look at what we're doing with this country. Back in the day, I don't ascribe to any of the political parties at this point. I'd say I'm an independent, but I would say that when we came to this country in '99, this country was as buoyant as ever could be. It was flying. Now all the cylinders are burned out. We're sort of floating along. The GOP, the Democrats, the infighting, the downfighting, all the stuff that goes on compromises terribly our standing on the global stage. And so all of a sudden, it makes us look vulnerable, very vulnerable in every single possible way. And I don't want to say too much about that, but I'd like people to read the book to understand just how vulnerable they are when we are unable to sustain and fund and direct and guide ourselves politically, economically, and socially. We undermine our own capabilities and the view that the world has of us as a nation that was once the greatest nation on earth. And so just to end that point, when Donald Trump says, "Make America great again," you have to wonder, what's he really saying? What's he really pointing to? Because I haven't really seen it enunciated the way we've done in the book, but I'm asking the question, what's meant by "Make America great again"? Because where we are is we're very close to the bottom. And I think we need to change that trajectory quickly.
Hopefully Trump and Biden can both read this book, and whoever else is running for president or any office. But most important, we need to read it. Order this book. Here's the website. It's right on the screen, americainblackandwhite.info. Read the book, order the book. Dr. Duddersoon, I could talk to you all day long, but they only give us about 10 minutes. Any last thoughts for our viewers?
Not particularly. Only that one of the points the book makes is around the treatment of blacks in the United States. And often they'll say, well, when you raise that issue, you're an activist. I'm going to play activist today. Black people in this country make up 14% of the population, but receive less than 1.7% of the federal spend. That's a problem. When a black person is 3 times more likely to be shot dead on the street, that's a problem. When a black person is 3 times more likely to die during a pandemic, that's a problem. When a black person has a 5 times more likely probability of ending up in jail, because that's the ratio of non-blacks to blacks in jail. That's a problem. There are some serious issues that we need to address. The book addresses them as best as possible. I'm not saying all the answers are there, but I'm saying to the readers, if you get this book and read it, you're going to understand what's wrong with what's going on around you, because we framed it that way. And if you understand how it's been framed, then you'll understand what you need to do about it and why you need to vote with your feet. No longer, don't give your vote to anyone free. Don't walk across the aisle and say, "I'm going to give my vote to the Republicans," because that does not solve the problem. If you're going to vote with conditions. And these conditions say, hey, listen, our circumstances have not changed over the past 400 years. Let's see how we can change those circumstances with our vote. And a block vote works. That's as much as I'll say.
The author, Dr. Carl O. Duddersoon, and his son with the same name wrote this amazing book. I hope you will all read it, and I hope Dr. Duddersoon will come back on the show sometime soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
And for our viewers, don't go anywhere. We have another author coming up right after this.
Thank you, Mike.